Hello Aquarius, welcome to the Plaid Sheep Oracle. You begin with this divine feminine. So it seems like, at least at this time, if you're watching this when I post it, we are, I think, looking at the influence of this Venus retrograde that's about to occur across the way from you in Leo. She stations retrograde on July 22nd, and then will remain retrograde until, I think, mid-September, and then she leaves Leo in the first week or so of October. So she'll have spent 4 months moving forward and back and forward again across the way from you. Usually she's there for less than a month. So the card says, the frequency of divine feminine supports our receptive, nurturing, and soft side, allowing it to express itself openly and helping us to connect to our intrinsic understanding of our connection to all of creation. And then the second card, which interestingly is 22, is the the Ignite, the water meadow. Ignite, water meadow. I don't know what that terrible sound was, if you heard it. So this is it's a fertile, expansive energy. Fire sign related. And I'll read you the whole poem. Son of the sea, Freyr's fertility forces fauna from the soul. Sunshine saturates the sacral as purified rain rolls to the roots of all life. The soaked, saturated seeds split. The first thread of germination plunges down so the wild water meadow flowers can sprout, shoot and bloom with the soul's new tune. Ignite the song of your water phoenix. So this notion of combining fire and the feminine. Now, traditionally, the signs, right, air signs and water sign, or air signs and fire signs are considered to be masculine, and earth and water signs are considered to be feminine. In my view, each of those has a feminine expression and a masculine expression. So there is a feminine expression of fire. And this Venus in Leo is exploring that. And we've talked, I think, before in a number of readings about this idea of combining elements that seem to be troublesome to combine. So fire and water are seen as incompatible. But of course, in nature, all of the elements combine. And then we have this Let It Go card, which both with the title and the name and the image, rather, of this woman apparently raising this wall of water makes me think of Elsa and her song Let It Go. But that's a kind of distorted let it go, because she's not really letting anything go. She's going off and isolating herself in a giant ice castle. So she's really not letting anything go except for, connections. She's rejecting, really, rather than letting go. out of fear of her own power, really. Now the keywords below are release the past, forgive, soften, move forward. And it's really that soften. Right? That's the repetition here, the softening. And your energy, Aquarius, I don't think most people would call it soft, usually. Your planets are Saturn and Uranus, and this is a more of a harder edged electric energy. So the first underlying is this Page of Swords. And underneath it is this sort of interesting Four of Cups, which speaks less of, ignoring something or rejecting something than it does of this kind of childhood, right? She's wearing this bunny outfit like the kid in A Christmas Story. And what underlies Elsa's rejections is her fear. Both fear of her own power, of, harming somebody, but also fear of being rejected, of being seen as weird or wrong. And it may be that you're looking back to a time when maybe you felt either rejected or maybe you felt really fearful about something. And as a result of this, you formed these hard edges. You built your castle of ice. Maybe you really leaned on your masculine side, what we think of as the masculine aspects. Dynamism, intellect, achievement, an aggressive way of moving forward. That helped you feel safe. Right? What is it? The best defense is a good offense? Or maybe it's the other way around. I'm not sure. But the way it's coming through, right, is the best defense is a good offense. To go out there, to be aggressive, to be strong, to be dynamic, to be achieving, to be problem solving, to be proactive. To be innovative, even, but in a really sort of forward way. I'm going to find the most futuristic thing. And underneath both of these is this King of Cups extending this cup. Now you are generally associated with the King of Swords. But here's this King of Cups extending the cup. We have the Magician who's come up for you before. But in this case, it is a woman in the card. And she's sort of she's like a sorceress kind of magician. There's all sorts of, things going on here. There's this spirit of the wolf that's been released, and all of these candles and flame, and there she is in her red dress. So there's this kind of chaotic, more feminine energy, because that's a thing about the feminine energy, or what we think of as feminine energy, is that it's chaotic, or it can be. I'm actually reading Rollo May's The Courage to Create, which was written in 1975 and speaks as if it was written now. Right, it talks about changing times and who do we need? We need artists, and authoritarian systems don't like artists, at least not artists who create truly from their heart and maybe subversively, because that's chaotic, it upsets things. So this energy of receptivity, of not having everything lined up, right? That's the real fear, isn't it? Right? It's a fear of things being out of control. And a magician is certainly someone who doesn't care at all about that. He cares about discipline for his own mind, for his own practice, but he wades into the chaos in order to bring things synergistically together. And then the Page of Cups. This dream energy. The energy of possibility. Of a new idea that comes through an emotional route rather than an intellectual one. And then the Page of Earth, who in this deck is my seer card. Right, I see her as one of the oracles at Delphi. Right, there's some goats hanging out on the hillside with her, outside her oracular temple. And she too is receptive, unconcerned with chaos. Her pronouncements were often cryptic, like Zen koans. You had to think about them. No straight lines. And then the Three of Cups. And this is right, these are baby birds being fed by their mother. It's kind of, there is collaboration happening here. But it's not really of peers. And I think this is maybe how you feel, Aquarius, that you are kind of a child in relationship, perhaps both to your wider self and to Source. That Four of Cups, childlike energy. So that all of this creative force that is available feels a little overwhelming. Aquarius, I think. It may be, if you are watching this when I put it out, that this Venus retrograde, particularly happening kind of in conjunction with this Cancer new moon, is asking you to consider how much of what you do is based on this sort of fearful childhood self. that went out and built this ice castle. And it's really cool, right? The ice castle is really awesome and cool. And that song is really dynamic and it seems really empowering. And if she was, she stayed in town and she sang that song about, not allowing, these societal things or this fear that she had to rule her, then it would be cool, but right? It's about rejection, about isolating yourself. And these whole 2 rows are kind of about that. I mean, we have this Knight of Swords who's kind of, it's like he's about to ride through this 3 of Cups scene. Right? This 3 of Cups scene. I'll protect you. But in the process, he's going to disrupt the whole thing. There was this beautiful moment, magical, ritual, manifesting moment thing happening here, and he rides through. Right underneath is this 3 of Pentacles. He's going to ride through that too. And then through the star. So this, I think, largely intellectual energy. There's, this sharpness to this. And the sense of having to fight your way through things. We have this 9 of Wands. The wounded warrior. Having to fight your way through things. And then we have this Knight of Pentacles, who's, he's sort of trying to hand you this pentacle, but you are in this 7 of Wands energy. You don't even see him. You are so focused on this battle that you feel you need to be engaged with that you don't even see him trying to hand you this pentacle. So focused on looking out for the danger, or maybe even for the next challenge. What's the next challenge? What's the next conquest? What's the next battle to be fought? So during the past several weeks, I have had this experience of seeing the process of a butterfly coming into being right here in my apartment. I adopted a caterpillar that came on some herbs that I bought at the farmer's market, and maybe I'll tell the whole story in a post. I don't want to do it all here, but the upshot for you is about that moment when the butterfly emerged. So one of the tropes that is part of this whole butterfly mythos and metaphor is that a butterfly has to break out of the chrysalis. If you help a butterfly to get out of the chrysalis, the wings won't be strong enough and the butterfly won't be able to fly. So there's this, overcoming this stressor that's kind of, it seems, like you break out. Except that that's not how this butterfly emerged. She slipped out. Her cocoon is almost completely intact. There's just a little opening at the top. where she kind of broke through just a little bit at the top, and then she just slipped out. Like getting out of a pair of jeans or slipping a dress off. And that was perfectly fine. She was absolutely wonderful. Ready to go. So, while there is a place decidedly for stressors in life, right? Wind makes trees stronger, for example. Some of the stories that we tell ourselves can actually reinforce our old patterns. Right? Things are not always, they don't always have to be. We can look at things differently. And I had this feeling as I was choosing your cards that this message and other messages that I'm attempting to convey, that are arriving, that are coming in, that want to be spoken, are subversive. And needless to say, I really like that idea. That so many of, right, our tropes, the stories we tell ourselves, even in the spiritual sphere, actually reinforce some of the sort of systemic patterns that we have and prevent us from creating real change in our life and in society as a whole. Because then we have the Chariot. Right? You have your back to the Chariot. But it's there. And it does call to mind this Cancer new moon that's about to happen on the 17th of July. You know, and for some reason I keep thinking it's on the 16th. I'm not quite sure what that's about. Maybe there's something about the 16th. I don't know. The other thing that happens after Venus stations retrograde, she does it, the exact station is about 9:30 on the evening of the 22nd. And also we have 21 and 22 happening here, is that about 12 hours later, on the morning of the 23rd, Chiron, who is in Aries, also stations retrograde. And she may form a trine with him twice, because she moves much more quickly, even in retrograde. So there's something, this meeting of this Venusian energy and then this Chironic energy of the healer and the teacher. Now here in this bottom row, we have this No More Games card, which today is seeming, sort of, right, I'm gonna buckle down, I'm gonna do all the things, I'm gonna, stop wishing and mooning away, I'm gonna just, right, I'm gonna do the things, right? If I have a manifestation practice, I'm gonna approach it in this sort of sharp, intellectual, achieving way. But then we have Home Away. This building being tossed on the ocean. Right? This is the reality. And it's especially the reality if we don't want to see it. You know, then we really get tossed about and we wonder what the hell is going on. Right? Aren't we doing all the things? What is happening? Why do these sort of towery flood things keep showing up? When I'm doing all the things. What is that about? Nine of Swords. All the swirling thoughts in the head. And then the Ten of Swords, which in this card feels a little bit less like a final ending than it does in other cards. Here she just looks like she's sleeping on this bed of nails, right? She, you know, not only does she get up in the middle of the night and perform this, like, bowing to the nightmare, but then she goes to sleep on this bed of nails. Rough patch, yeah. And the lost girl, right? Her boat has run aground in the rough patch. But, oh, before I move on, underneath this no more games is the Fool. And the Fool, you will notice, is standing on this same chessboard. But Fool has a totally different dynamic, right? The Fool is subversive. Fool does not care for your rules. Fool follows the full moon. So that's feminine, water phoenix, soft energy. And then the Tree of Life. And the Serpent. So I'm going to say, Aquarius, eat the fruit. Eat the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And I say not good and evil, but masculine and feminine, order and chaos. Achieving and allowing. So advice. Well, the world. And under that, the Fool, again, underlying. Take the Fool's route into the new world. And not just the Fool, but the Page of Cups also repeats. And then the Ten of Swords repeats, but this time as the butterfly who just slipped out of her cocoon. You know, another aspect of this butterfly journey for me is that the kind of major changes, so going from caterpillar to cocoon, and butterflies don't make a cocoon, they become the cocoon. So there's a final molting, and then there's this chrysalis phase where the outer skin becomes the cocoon. And then her slipping out, I missed those. I mean, she was here with me. And during the first change, I was making dinner, and during the second change, I was having breakfast with my back to her. And I turned around, and there she was. Several days earlier than I expected her. Although I think that I knew that it would be that day. But, so these things happened when I wasn't looking. And I didn't have to be looking. It was not required of me to stare at her until she changed. And so it may be that you have changed more than you know. It may be that you've been holding yourself in the cocoon. Perhaps because you feel like you're not strong enough to break out, or there's still more healing to be done, I haven't finished, or I'm on a timeline, so I have to wait until X date, or even X astrological transit. I expected her, she formed the cocoon on the full moon, and the website said that it was, generally about 2 weeks. I thought, oh, she'll come out on the new moon. But no. She didn't care about my calendar at all. She didn't even care about the moon's calendar. And she slipped out. And then we have both the Knight of Wands and the Knight of Cups. Again, this fire, water energy. And saying that word wire, I feel the image that comes to mind is you thinking that you're walking a wire. That there's this very specific narrow path and you have to keep your balance. And this is not, at this time, the case. This time, Aquarius, is not the moment for you to fight your way through. This is a moment for softening, for allowing, for embracing chaotic and unpredictable, unplanned, undefined, not lined up in any way energies. So allow yourself to soften, Aquarius. See where that takes you, where contemplating some of these ideas takes you. Because that's sort of a nice use of the mind in these cases, to kind of turn things over, examine things from all sides. Because it can be difficult, especially if you're a very intellectual person, to just, sideline your mind. It doesn't really work. But if you give your mind something to work on, to chew on, to immerse your mind in this subversive place where things are not what they seem, what are the other possibilities? What if I turn it over? What if I look at it from a different perspective? What if I get inside, or I turn it inside out? So, Aquarius, I think this could be a really interesting time for you. And I wish you the very, very best and I will see you next time. So long, Aquarius.